Welcome to Fat Cat Productions News with a View. This is January. I keep doing that. June 29th, 2025, episode 91. I'm your host, John A. Costa. Tonight's going to be live. We're also recording it. I don't know why it hasn't gone up yet, but it should. Okay, stream setup. Connected. Stream software to go live. Oh, not sure what's going on, but we'll get there in a second. And we'll redo this opening. Look at that. We gotta edit that anyway. And restart the show anyway, and we'll edit that out. Not sure why it's not working. I see everything's connected here. We'll go there. We'll find out. So, again, this is News with a View. Your host, John A. Costa. FatCatProduction.com. Cat spelt with a K. I'll put it right up over here somewhere. In a not a link, but it will be the address of our website. And again, this is June 29th, episode 91. We're going to talk about birthrights. In the 6-3 ruling, the court vacated nationwide injunctions by federal judges in Maryland, Washington State, and Massachusetts, removing the broad scope of their decision blocking President Trump's January 20th executive order. It's interesting on how that all works. It does not stop people from challenging the executive order. I mean, people are running around screaming. It halts it. It does make it tougher, and it's another added step. But it was the correct step. The district judges, those powers were taken away from them in 83 or so. People can cry and scream all they want about it and how unjust it is, but it is the correct move. And again, you have to realize something, that this now sets the tone for any other president, Democrat, Republican, or whatever. So I don't understand why people are getting so upset about it, other than the fact that it does mean, of course, something to the people, and and to the Democrats who actually are responsible for allowing this to get this far, by not acting when they could have acted. And President Biden and Obama stopping the just casual approach to our borders could have prevented this from ever becoming a knee-jerk reaction. So, the Supreme Court ruling means judges' injunctions blocking President Trump's executive order only affects the jurisdiction where immigrants filed their lawsuits. So, every other state, I mean, there's about 13 states that filed petitions against this. Um, they now have to refile, uh, and if they refile, they have to go through the proper sequence of doing it. I apologize, I'm looking over here at my YouTube connection. I'm not seeing myself up there where I said I'd be live. So I'm a little upset with that, though. I am looking at my... Oh, I see. My computer didn't update. God, I hate Microsoft. I really do. They ask you every freaking question under the sun, except, can I use this thing? So I have to go to YouTube. Just bear with me as I go through. Let's see if it remembered who I was. It did remember who I was. We're going to go live. Let's see what happens. I see it loading a little bit better than it was doing. Connecting. But again, I don't see me up there. But nevertheless, we'll figure it out. It should be going live. I don't know why it's not. But what this means is it's going to lead to more federal lawsuits, honestly, because now every state that wants to file on behalf of people is going to jump on it. It's going to cause confusions in the court. I could see some things going on that way, and this was one of the things that the court was worried about. The Supreme Court was worried that this would cause an influx of cases. And President Trump said it wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system. Hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. The executive order under the Supreme Court ruling will take effect in 30 days. And so the majority opinion boils down to a key finding that so-called universal injunctions issued by judges likely exceeded the equitable authority of Congress had granted the courts. And I apologize, it was 1789 is when that all took place. The government is likely to succeed on the merits of its argument regarding the scope of relief. Judge Barrett had wrote in the majority opinion. A universal injunction can be justified only as an exercise of equitable authority, yet Congress has granted federal courts no such authority. So what the court is saying is that, whether or not they agree with the 14th Amendment argument or not, a district judge couldn't fight it. So, and Trump had stated the 14th Amendment was meant for babies of slaves. President Trump had said this on Friday. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. So, that's an interesting tidbit. So, I don't understand why I'm not working here. Could be that a setting I had made earlier on my switcher, and I'm not about to play with it now. We'll just let this die on the vine here if this is a problem. I have a feeling it was something that I did with my switcher, and I don't know if I could fix it on the boom, boom, boom. No, everything looks all right. So, don't know. I could be up and I'm just not seeing it. Don't know. It said connect streaming software to go live. Yeah, I have, and it said excellent connection. So, don't know. Let's see what it says here. All right. I have no closed caption. Normal latency. It could be a problem with, I don't think so. I'm just going to go back to normal latency. Who knows? Software streaming. Boom, boom. Well, can't waste my time with it. From the Daily Beast. And they had a Trump ends protection for deportation for shithole country migrants. So, Donald Trump administration ended legal protection for Haitians on Friday, making 500,000 migrants eligible for deportation to an island Trump has called a shithole. Well, Trump is not the only person that has called that Haiti a shithole. Haiti's got its name because it was hell even back in the days. So I don't see that being much of a problem, right? And I'm just going back and forth here, switching, seeing if anything. Don't know. Don't know. I'm going to take this from live. I'm going to go back to live. Let's see what happens. Yep. Don't know. Sorry, YouTubers. Sorry, YouTubers. I tried, YouTubers. I honestly did. I tried. I've reset and reset and reset. Error. Your encoder is sending data faster than real time. So, well, at least I got that far. And that was at 7:13, so that was right now. So, your encoder is sending data faster than it is allowed. Let's see. All right, so I dropped it and re-put it back up there. Now, it looks like it might have gone. There we are. You just catching in, YouTubers. This is News with a View, a Fat Cat production. Hosted by me, John A. Costa. This is the June 29th, 2025. And episode 91. Just to go over, we were talking about the birthright questions that so many people in the news are saying this gives President Trump the right to, that this answers the questions of birthrights. It does not. What it does answer is that the district judge can't stop Trump from enacting on his interpretation of the 14th Amendment, and other courts must follow the procedure now of filing a class action suit and so forth to go forward. And until the Supreme Court makes a decision, President Trump can make his interpretation. I know that sounds crazy world to a lot of people, but that's the way the system works. And the courts did make, and I said this before, I said people are not going to like what the courts are going to rule. And this is just one step forward now for the president to then challenge birthrights and not be held up by the a court that should not be in the arena. It doesn't mean that come September that the courts might rule and hear this in an emergency action. But I would say that I'm pretty certain, and I've been certain, I've been right so far on my predictions on what will go and what will not go through the Supreme Court. And the idea of the 14th Amendment birthright was to answer the 13th Amendment's issue with slavery and those brought over here and who had children. So, the slaves were given, they were given the right citizenship, but there was no mention of the children. And that's where the 14th Amendment then came in. And that is expressly conveyed in the 14th Amendment. And I absolutely will think the people fighting that will lose. The court will have to go back because there is Supreme Court cases where they said, no, you're born here. That's it. There are cases on the book that you would say that is precedent. The courts have already answered this. The Supreme Court is allowed to revisit its own opinions and rulings. Roe v. Wade, perfect example. The difference with that and the 14th Amendment is we have language in the 14th Amendment. There was no abortion language. The Second Amendment has language on gun ownership and how that works. So there's language there that both sides could sink their teeth into. So that's what's going on with that. This, to me, stopping a universal injunction is a major, major, major win. The birthrights, that's up there, but I'm not, again, I'm not so certain on whether or not that really goes into play. Because like I said in yesterday's show, I want to know what the plans are. What is your plan? You win it. You won, President Trump. Now what are you going to do? How far are you going to go back? How far can people prove back? So I see huge, huge hurdles here that I just don't see how you could get an answer. Honestly, I just don't see how you get an answer. The question is too big. It's been spread out so much. I don't know if there's truly a good answer here, folks. Other than the fact that probably President Trump is right in his saying about birthrights, and okay, you're right. Now, tell me what you're going to do with that. How are you going to make this? How are you going to apply this, and to whom? So, I think that the real question to the courts should be, if you're in this country illegally, what limited protections do you get, if any? If you're here as a visitor and you're documented as a visitor, then you get all the rights everyone else gets, because we know you're here. But if you're here illegally, if you came here illegally, we have no idea who you are, what your story is, and yeah, guess what? You get nothing. That's how I would do it. Or you get, you can't be put into a prison without a trial, but you can be deported without a trial. If we charge you with a crime here and then put you through the court system, then yeah, automatically you should have certain rights applied to you. I don't have a problem with that. So that's what's going on with that. And then I said, if you didn't catch me earlier, Trump ends protection from deportation for shithole country migrants. And he's talking about Haiti. So 500,000 people could be sent back to Haiti because they lose their TPS, temporary protected status. Now everyone is screaming, "Oh, they had a status." Yeah. The key word is temporary. Look it up in the dictionary. It doesn't mean without end. So you have to look it up in the dictionary and then come up and say, yeah, it's temporary. And TPS was made by executive order. Now it's gone by executive order. Ending decades of extensions that granted legal status to those who fled the conflict-plagued island. Yeah. Didn't the Clintons raise hundreds of millions of dollars to rebuild Haiti? What happened? What happened to that money? What happened? All right. So Haitians with protected status have been shielded from deportation since 2010. That is when an earthquake killed 220,000 people and further destabilized the Caribbean nation, which is the poorest in the Western Hemisphere, and now is struggling with both gang and political violence. Well, TPS is granted to nationals, and that's anyone that's not an American whose home country is gripped with conflict, natural disaster, or other extraordinary circumstances. So it gives the right to work and travel legally within the United States. TPS is set for 6, 12, or 18 months terms, but can be renewed once the initial term is up. So what they're saying, yeah, it could be renewed. Temporary again, temporary again. It doesn't become temporary. 2010 is 16 freaking years. not temporary. Department of Homeland Security said the decision restores integrity to our immigration system and ensures that temporary protective status is actually temporary. And in this article, I forget, this might have been from, I might have grabbed this from Yahoo News. Uh, Trump demonized Haitian migrants during his presidential campaign. He falsely said in his debate against former Vice President Kamala Harris that Haitians in Springfield, Ohio were eating cats and dogs of American residents. A baseless conspiracy that Vice President J.D. Vance helped spread last summer. Yeah. During his first term in 2018, Trump reportedly said in a closed-door meeting with lawmakers that Haiti and other nations like El Salvador and others in Africa were shithole countries, that the U.S. should stop accepting migrants. Instead, he said the country should get more Norwegians to cross the Atlantic. Hilarious. Hilarious. Oh, have you ever met a Norwegian? Just saying. A year earlier, a report in the New York Times, because they could always be believed, folks, said that Trump once grumbled that Haitian immigrants coming to the U.S. all had AIDS. Again, hilarious. So, that is really what's going on there. Just a little break from here. Charlize Theron, remember, actress, fears millions of people are going to die because of foreign aid cuts. Foreign aid cuts brought HIV and AIDS programs in my home country in South Africa to an absolute standstill. Why? Why? Your countries can buy that medication from any country in Europe, China, Canada. Why is it that the United States had to supply everything to you? Why is it that the money that goes into Africa didn't get to the Africans? And she said hundreds of thousands of people might have already died from the suffering. So these people in a couple of months, and I heard this like days after Trump did it, that thousands were dying daily. Well, I hate to say this, sweetheart, but if they're dying daily like that in those type of numbers, the problem's going to fix itself. Just saying. There is hope. There is power in all of us standing up, organizing, protesting, voting, and caring for each other, and refusing to accept this in the new normal. How about in your country? How about go to Somalia and scream about your voting rights? Go to most nations in Africa and scream about your voting rights. See what happens to you. See what happens to you in those countries where you're going to saying LGBTQ, LGBTQ. Go and then see what happens to you. Yeah. Freaking people are amazing. The contradiction in your words. And you just truly are. You're disingenuous. Because if you really believe that, you'd give all your money to them and just live comfortably. You could live nice. You don't have to fly around in private jets. You can fly economy. So you're disingenuous. And again, the socialists and the communists in there going, we're going to spend your money until there is no more money. That's how their programs work. And. And she said, because if you compare the 1% budget to the millions of people that are going to die because of this, it's just devastating. It does feel like this event is a little more important than it was last year. And she's talking about an event that the CTAOP in South Africa. You know what? Get other people to give the money. Because until we know where that money's going, you ain't getting a dime. I wasn't going to talk much about the big, beautiful bill. But people saying it will affect Medicare, and it will in some good ways too. It will allow contributions to the HSAs, which is the health saving account. Even though you might be collecting or might be using a different insurance company than Medicare or Part A. You could be covered under, a pension or something like that. But you could still now put money, well, if it's passed, you'll be able to put money in there. And right now, you can't decline Part A while collecting Social Security benefits. To make a HSA contribution, you can only be enrolled in a high deductible health plan. And I love all these things, HDHP and HSA. So the current law says individuals entitled to Medicare Part A are ineligible to contribute to a health saving account, even if they are still enrolled in a private high deductible health plan. So if you're in the marketplace and you have something like, a $7,000 deductible, and you have a family and stuff, you can't contribute money in there into that thing. And under this one, proposed changes under the new law, Medicare Part A, eligible working seniors enrolled in HDHP can contribute. But this is qualified people with Medicare. It's not in another plan. And again, it's wordy because most people over the age of 65 elect to get Medicare. Now, if you're working and still, have a company plan that maybe they pay 90% of, you still can't get out of that. There's certain things that you have to still pay for, and this now would relieve that. The other thing that the big beautiful bill allows more hospitals to register as rural emergency hospitals, and this has been a big problem. And a lot of hospitals had to close down or stop offering certain types of care because they just couldn't do it. They couldn't get reimbursements back. They couldn't meet the criteria to register as a rural emergency hospital. So what they did happen in financial stress had led to 146 hospitals in rural U.S. counties being closed and 81 being converted to non-acute care, meaning they stopped providing general short-term acute inpatient care between 2005 and 2023. Uh, uh, Being designated an REH, Regional Emergency Hospital, by Medicare can be a financial lifeline to keep medical facilities open in sparsely populated area. And under the current law, only certain hospitals that were enrolled in Medicare as of December 27th, 2020, were eligible to convert to the Rural Emergency Hospital designation. This change would allow hospitals to look back from January 2014 to December 26, 2020, and allow qualifying rural hospitals to open during that time, but have since closed to reopen under REH designation. So that's a good thing. More hospitals in rural areas that really need it. And this happens, in a lot of places. You got huge areas of properties, and where we would have 2 hospitals or 3 hospitals in that same square mileage area, there's nothing, because there's only 2 or 3,000 people, where there's 50,000 people or 100,000 people in that same area in built up areas. So that's a good thing. All right, the use of AI to reduce and recover improper payments. Yeah, people don't like hearing clawback. The elimination of fraud, waste, and abuse has been a major theme of the second term of President Trump's administration. There's a provision in this bill that will use AI to reduce and recoup Medicare overpayments. The CMS recently launched a bid to audit every Medicare Advantage plan and clear a significant backlog by 2026. Proposed law. A new law allocates $25 million for the Secretary of Health and Human Services to engage AI contractors and data scientists. I love that new term, data scientist. It's called a programmer. To investigate and recover improper Medicaid payments. Also, the Secretary must provide Congress with progress reports on reducing these improper payments. So, the $25 million is going to have to show that it got results. And the Secretary is going to have to report back to Congress and saying, yes, we spent $25 million, but we recouped $150 million. So it was worth it. Looking for fraud, and if you ever went to a hospital or had to pay out of pocket for something, you saw that, they did that blood test, through my plan for $12. And I go somewhere and they want, $950 for that test if I had to pay for it out of pocket. And some people do have to pay for it out of pocket. And then sometimes these some of these healthcare places, they double and triple dip. And, we've seen it where we look and go, I didn't have that test. Yet it was all part of the process of them getting money. I haven't seen that when I've been here in South Carolina. But I have seen it in New York. And you question it, and they go, well, whatever. Don't worry, you don't know it. And I'm like, well, okay. So, one of the things is limit eligibility for Medicare. Admittedly, current law already excludes anyone in the U.S. from unlawfully receiving Medicare benefits. To be eligible to enroll in Medicare as a retiree, you must be 65, have worked for 10 years, and be either a U.S. citizen or have been a permanent resident for at least 5 consecutive years. The Big Beautiful Bill explicitly outlines which non citizens would be eligible. The work and age requirements are unchanged. So the law would eliminate Medicare eligibility for illegal immigrants and only allow eligibility for lawfully permanent residents, certain Cuban immigrants, and individuals living in the United States through a compact of free association. So the compacts of free association are agreements between the U.S. and 3 Pacific Island nations: Micronesia, the Marshall Islands, and Peleliu. So that's the only ones that can do that. There are others in there. There's always caveats. Everything has a caveat, and you shouldn't get too hung up in the minutia of some of this. But the Big Beautiful Bill is 948 pages. Senator Schumer made them read each one, read the whole thing, and he still wouldn't agree to it. But he said that it has a right to be on record. And again, Schumer, waste of time. It's not going to do anything. Them reading it is not going to change anyone's vote. It probably will pass, even though it did not meet the parliamentarian, review or whatever, which is another bullshit, layer of crap. I understand each party uses all these little nuances to their benefit. I'm sure the Republicans have used it. How many of you even knew that there was a person that could stop the whole Senate from exercising its duty? I knew it. But I didn't think that, I would have thought that anyone trying to press these bills in here would have gone and go, hey, this is what we're looking at. And not do it after there's a vote or as it's being voted on. That's just a waste of time, folks. And that could be used as a political hack. And it is being used as a political hack. I haven't dwelled too much into the Big Beautiful Bill. I think it's going to pass. I say that. I think that Trump is on a victory roll here. And again, Democrats, you need to get on the bandwagon here. You need to get on board with Trump, because at least you'll have his ear. And Trump, the businessman, always the businessman, knows that sometimes you got to grease the wheels a little bit. So, hey, if you see your way clear of doing this, and none of this stuff is going to hurt, there might be some financial things on it, but in the long run, it's not going to do anything. And, he turns around and he goes, listen, I could go to your state at election time But if you're a person that works with me, I'm not saying roll over and expose yourself to me. But if you can work with me, then there's no need for me to go and look to put someone in that will do, my bidding. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you give me some help here getting some of these things done. I'll listen to your issues with it. And maybe we could, find a middle ground. If not, I'll just jam it through. We have the House. We have the House of Representatives. We got the Senate. I can jam this through. But I'd rather slide it through. And I think Trump would be very eager to work with people like that. And, you don't have to drink the Kool-Aid. You don't have to agree on everything. But when you don't have the power, and honestly, Democrats, honestly, it doesn't look like you're going to get it back in 2026. If anything, you're going to lose more. And, you were all screaming the tariffs were going to destroy our economy and everything. And we're doing just fine. The stock market's doing good. We're back up there. We're above where we were. If we attack Iran, the world will come to an end. The world didn't come to an end. We stopped their nuclear program. We stopped them from getting the bomb. They could try again, but they'll get their asses bombed again. And, I think the military knows this, that's there. And, not that I trust any of them over there. I don't trust them as far as I can, throw them. But it's one of these things that if they agree to something, then we have to have terms in there that we can inspect it. And in essence, what we're going to do is have a regime change. The Ayatollah can be the spiritual leader, but he can't have complete authority. He's not the freaking emperor. And you could say the same thing about Trump and everything else. He's not. If he was, he wouldn't have this problem of having to go to the Supreme Court and argue things. He would just do it. And the stuff that he is fighting on are things you could argue in front of the Supreme Court. So I don't see it as, one of these big things where, this is big, bad. Oh, Trump bad. Tired of really hearing that stuff, honestly. So we want that has to end. But I realize that your whole party has been solely based on, you called George Bush Hitler. You called Donald Trump Hitler. And you do all this stuff. And you lost big. Big. And you could scream up and down, he doesn't have a majority. Doesn't matter, he won. And he won the Congresses. And not that many of you Democrats believe in God. But the ones that do, you should be lighting candles. That the 3 liberal judges there all have nice, healthy, long lives. Because if Trump gets to pick another Supreme Court justice, you're going to be shocked on who it is. And I made the prediction once before. I'll make it again. It will be Ted Cruz. Yep. Yep. And then you really are screwed for years. If any of the conservative judges, something happens to them, Ted Cruz will be the next one. And then there's a couple other smarties out there that I would say have a good shot of going in there. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Other things going on. Middle East, very quiet, though. Israel is taking care of business in the Gaza. They just assassinated one of the top Hamas people that planned October 7th. They got him. And I think now that they've gotten a lot of the people that were involved, top level people and second level people and third tier people, that now when Trump goes, hey, let's package us all together and put it out there, and let's end this. I think that might happen. You haven't seen Yemen do anything crazy. Hezbollah, Jihad, the Islamic Jihad and stuff, they're all quiet because their benefactors are gone. Iran is out of the picture and will be out of the picture. I personally do not think we'll stop the Iranian nuclear program in the sense, I think when we sit down with them and they go, we want to do this, and we'll do it, with your eyeballs, but, we also want certain things. We don't want the threat of you guys coming in here and bombing us. We want the threat from Israel to stop. And that will open the door to, well, then you have to stop funding all these groups. And if you can agree to that, and we can get the bullet points down here, and then work off that, my guys, I think we could get a deal here. And one that, you prosper, Israel prospers, the nations around Israel prosper. Syria's already, they go, we just want peace. We just want peace. Turkey can now become somewhat of a major player over there. Don't like the president over there, but he is pretty straightforward on what he wants for his country and what he proposes. So, gotta give the guy respect. All right, I went through everything here. I get a kick out of the like the Yahoo News and MSNBC and CNN said, with the court ruling, a split decision. 6-3 is not a split decision, folks. That's a majority. 9-0 isn't, a split decision. Though they never said 9-0 is a split decision. 8-1 they have, and some other things. But but they're calling the 6-3 a split decision. It's not a split decision. If it was 5-4, I'd say it was a split decision. 6-3? Absolutely not. And did they go down their own political lines? Yes. With the exception that I think that the conservative justices, if you want to call them that, I have faith in the Supreme Court. I have faith in all 9 of them. Where the 3 liberal judges saying the conservative judges are reading the line by line by line, and being wordsmiths going through there. Well, yeah. But they're also tying it back into what was the original intent. Not what you want it to be today, but what was the original intent. And that can be a basis of an argument. But the argument can then be factualized. We know why the 14th Amendment birthrights were in there. And we can also have facts to saying that the Supreme Court ruled otherwise in other cases. So, like I said, in the 14th Amendment, and the 14th Amendment, there is a spot for everyone to really hold on to and take a position. And if they argue it correctly, they could sway. They could sway the justices. They just need to be pushed just a little bit. The 6 need to be pushed just a little bit. On the Second Amendment, yeah, that's going to be hard. Because that's pretty plain and simple. And you might want to be careful, on playing the wordsmith game with it. Whereas it could mean actual more guns out there. Just saying. I'm an absolute staunch believer in the Constitution. And where the Constitution doesn't bring a subject matter under the umbrella, then the state takes their umbrella and put it up. And they take it forward. As long as what the state does not conflict with the federal laws, you're good to go. You're good to go. But when they collide, I want the Supreme Court there. There would have been rulings with the Supreme Court that I go, wow, I would never have thought they'd go that way. But they do, and I might wear a black shirt, but they wear black robes. Yeah. So, all right, with that, I'm going to say good night. I've been on the record side for an hour. It's about 10 minutes in there that I'm going to have to shovel out and edit out and try to fix up and see how my editing skills are progressing, which is really, other than cutting and pasting, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to say good night. God bless. Say a prayer. Prayer does work. Give to a charity. Charity of your choice. You reach out to that charity. Charity shouldn't come to you. Don't become a victim helping a victim. Give to a local food bank. This week we were bad. We did not do that. And a lot going on, but we will make up for that this coming week. I will be doing shows almost every day up until probably August, and then I'm going to take a week off, and then even when I go to I'm going to go see the kids in New York just for a few days. We'll have people here, either I go or the wifey goes, but we'll see the kids. I won't be doing a show. I've toyed with the idea of doing a show on the road and stuff, but you know, by the time I drive and do everything and get there, all I want to do is go down to the restaurant, have a drink, eat, shower, and go to bed. I, I, I don't want to edit anything. So, all right. Again, congratulations, Chris, Danielle, Paul, Rowan, Cannoli. Uh, I'll be in touch. Uh, some stuff going on. We'll let you know. And with that, I'm going to say good night as I fade to black.